Hey guys, it's Cody. Today we're talking a little bit about the truth behind those "We Buy Houses" signs, and you may have also seen the signs on the side of the road that say "Real Estate Investor Seeks Trainee, Earn $10,000 per month or more." We're going to be talking about what these signs mean, what's the actual meaning behind them, and what are these investors looking to do when they put up signs just like this. I'm sure you've seen these signs just about everywhere, and they happen to pop up almost as quickly as they get taken down. You'll see these on the exits or entrances of freeways or highways, or you'll see them in parking lots or even just anywhere around town. You'll see these signs set up on the side of the road. Sometimes they're on the telephone pole or just staked into the ground. And we're going to talk about what these signs mean and how you can use it in your own real estate investing business. If you're looking for a cheap form of marketing and something that actually works, you have to put yourself out there a little bit in order to get people calling you in this form of advertising. There's really two different ways to find deals in real estate. One is to have people reaching out to you, and the second is to be reaching out to them. So generally having people come inbound is going to be a lot more effective. They're going to be higher quality leads. It's going to be more effective, but it will be more expensive typically. On the other hand, you can reach out to people in any form, whether that's calling them, door knocking, or even just talking to people at the supermarket or Home Depot. Generally, when you're reaching out to other people, you can do this for free and it doesn't cost you anything, right? You've already got a phone, you've already got numbers. You can always call people on Craigslist or the classifieds to get their information and try to find somebody who's looking to sell and is in a hurry to do so. If you're looking to get people calling you inbound, that's going to get a little bit more expensive. That's when you start doing marketing like in the newspaper, on the internet, whether that's through social media or Google, or you do something like putting out these signs on the side of the road in order to get people to call you. You'll sometimes hear these signs be called bandit signs because they generally pop up and then disappear just as quickly. They're very common in different forms of advertising, not just real estate. You'll see there's a lot for political reasons whenever there's an election going on. So these are signs that pop up on the side of the roadway and then they'll get taken down either by the owner or by the city, or maybe somebody steals them. It's just a cheap form of advertising to get your message out there. So let's talk a little bit more about these signs and what they actually mean. So in the first example, you've got a sign that says "We Buy Houses, any condition, no fees, no realtors," whatever the sign might say. And what that is it's basically a real estate investor who's trying to get people to call them who may have a home that's in need of a sale. Typically, they're looking for people who are in more of a desperate situation, who think that somebody might not want their home, or they need to act on it quickly. Some of these reasons or examples could be that they're maybe in bankruptcy, maybe they're going through foreclosure, or they're about to short sell their home. Those are situations where they need to get money fast, and an investor is typically the quickest and easiest way to do that. The other situation where somebody might be in a desperate situation is if they just had a death in the family and they can't afford the payments, or perhaps it's a hoarder home and they just don't think that anybody is going to want to see the home, or they don't want to go through the hassle of showing the home to all these different people that are walking through it if they put it up on the market, and they'd rather just have a quick, fast sale for a cheaper price. We all know that real estate investors love it when a property needs a lot of work because it means there's potential to make more money in the deal. When a property needs significant fix-up, whether it's cleaning it out because it's a hoarder home or it's fixing structural items, that generally means you can get it for a much cheaper price, and you can go through that process of fixing those items because nobody else wants to, and you can then sell the property for quite a bit more in the future once those problems have been resolved. A lot of the investors I know make their biggest paydays on the properties that are in the worst shape. Your average buyer doesn't want a house that's been a hoarder home and has, crazy things like feces in it or dead animals or rats. Most buyers are not going to want that, where an investor sees that and they know that it means big money. Also, most buyers are not going to want something that has structural damage or needs, $50,000 to $100,000 worth of updates. This is where a real estate investor can come in and know that they can make a big payday on the back end. So, do these signs work? Well, of course they do. That's why many investors will put these signs out and they'll try to use them to get calls coming inbound. But you do need to know that there are some risks with this. A lot of cities and municipalities do not like these signs popping up because if they don't have restrictions on them, it can get out of control. And usually once the sign falls over, it ends up in the street and it just becomes more litter that the city has to take care of. Given that you can actually make these signs on your own with a Sharpie and a blank slate, you can go buy these signs from Home Depot for about a couple of bucks a piece, and you can make your own signs, or you can get them professionally made if you're looking to make 50 or 100 signs. You can have somebody professionally make them, but it's a very cheap way to do advertising and to get leads coming in. One other thing to note about this is that these investors may or may not be the actual end buyer. We've talked a little bit about wholesalers on this channel, and what a wholesaler is they're basically somebody who's going to take the property, they're going to put it under contract so that they have the right to purchase that property, and then they're going to assign it to another investor who's actually going to buy the property. So they're basically acting as the middleman between the seller and the buyer. These wholesalers will specialize in going out and finding these properties, learning how to talk to sellers, learning what motivates them to sell at a discounted price, and they'll tie up these properties with contracts and then sell them to an investor and collect a fee on whatever the difference is. Typically, these end investor buyers, they're going to focus on the fix and flip side, right? So they have the connections with the contractors, they know what stuff costs, they know how much it's going to cost to update a home, so they know that if they buy it for a certain amount, it's going to cost so much to fix it up, and then they can sell it for X in the future. They know that they can make a margin there, and that's where they get their profit. So depending on the market and the condition of the home, typically these investors will pay anywhere from 60 to 90% of the actual value of the home, because they know that they're going to have to do some fix up in order to maximize what they're getting paid to go through and either wholesale it to another investor or fix it up themselves and then list it and sell it. So this leads us right into the next point, which is why would a seller work with somebody who's going to give them a lowball offer and it's a discounted price on what the home is actually worth? Well, there's a couple of reasons why, and we're going to talk about them here. One thing I should note is that in almost every single case, the seller would get more money if they were to list the home on the MLS and put it up on the open market, because that's where the most amount of buyers are going to be, and that's how they can get the most exposure on their property to try and get the best deal possible. However, there are usually circumstances which prevent the seller from doing this, and so here are some of the reasons why they would do that. Number one, they might just not want to show the property. Sometimes people are really private. They don't want to show the property to tons of people. They don't want people walking through their home because they're worried about somebody stealing something. There's so many different reasons, but they might just not want people in their house. Number two, like we talked about a little bit earlier, is that they might be in a hurry to get away from something that's causing them to lose their home. This could be something like probate, foreclosure, or even bankruptcy. These are major problems that typically have a timeline, and if somebody waits too long to deal with them, they can get in a pickle where they need to sell the home very quickly, and so they're willing to take whatever they can just to get some of that equity out of the property before they lose everything. Number three on our list, maybe they don't want the neighbors knowing that they're actually moving. Some people have neighbors that are a little bit weird, or maybe they're really close to their neighbors, and they don't want their neighbors to know that they're going through a financial hardship, and so they just don't want them to know that they're moving, so that way they can kind of just pack up in a day or two and be gone and just be done with it and never have that confrontation of dealing with what the neighbors may say or may think. Number four, it could be that the home is possibly a hoarder home, right? This kind of plays into all of the other problems of where they don't want people coming in, they don't want the neighbors to see the home. They could have so much stuff inside of the home that it's embarrassing for people to come and look at. It could also mean that it's got major problems that they just don't want to deal with. Maybe it's got major structural items, or it needs some walls or the roof that needs to be rebuilt, and those are things that the seller doesn't have the money to take care of, or they just don't have the time or energy or effort to put into those things, and they'd rather just wipe their hands clean of it and be done with it. And the last item on our list, number five, is that maybe they just don't want to pay commissions, they don't want to pay closing fees. Typically, even paying these fees, if they can get a full market price on the home, they're still going to come out better than selling to an investor in most cases, but it doesn't play into those other things that they might be looking for, which is they need to get their money quick, or they just need to move out, or they don't want all of the showings and the hassle of going through the moving process. They'd rather just sell it to somebody for a discount and be done with it. So let's break it all down and just give you an example here so you can kind of put your hands on something tangible and kind of get an idea of how this would work in a real world scenario. So let's say you put out a sign in the parking lot at your local supermarket, and then about a week later you get a call from somebody who says, hey, I live down the street, I'm in a tight spot and I need to sell my home. This is a great opportunity for you to open up a conversation with them and say, well, what's the situation? Why do you need to sell so quick? How much are you looking to get out of the property? You can ask them these questions and figure out what their motivation is to sell, and then how you can help them and still make some profit. So you go and look at the home, and you can determine that based on what has sold recently that's been updated in that market, you know that the home is going to be worth about $350,000. But, let's say that this home actually needs quite a bit of work. It's a hoarder home, it needs to be cleaned out, and it needs a full update. It needs a new kitchen, needs new flooring, new paint, new doors, basin case. It needs everything put in throughout the house, and you know that that's going to cost about $60,000. And in addition to that, you're going to also have some other fees like closing costs. You're going to have a realtor commission. You're going to have hard money costs. You're going to have all these other things that you have to pay for when you sell the property. So that's something to add into your numbers when you account for what you can actually offer the seller for their property. You do the math and you know that you're going to have to spend about $60,000 on the property, and you're going to have about $20,000 in hard money costs, closing fees, a realtor commission, all of that stuff. And you also need to leave some space to actually make some profit for yourself, right? That's the whole reason that you're doing this. So you say, okay, I've got $60,000 in rehab, I've got $20,000 in all these other fees, and then I need to make at least $20,000 to make it worth my time to take on this risk. Given that situation, it's worth $350,000 after I go through that whole process, but I'm only able to pay $250,000 today. So let's say that the seller agrees. They say, hey, I owe $200,000 on the house. I just need to get out. I don't want people looking at it. I don't want to pay all these other fees. I don't want to go through the hassle of having to show the home and get it ready. I'd rather just sell it and get out of it. You make that offer of $250,000. They pay off the mortgage of $200,000. The seller gets to walk away with $50,000, and then you go through the process of actually updating the property and selling it, and that's how you make a profit on the back end. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of investors, as well as that other sign that I mentioned, that says real estate investor seeks trainee. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But really quick, guys, if you are enjoying this video, I'd love to see you subscribe to the channel and click the little bell to get notified when we release new videos just like this. Drop a comment here on the video and drop a like here on the video. It lets us know that you're enjoying the content that we're releasing. So our first type of investor, what we're going to call this, is a bird dog. A bird dog is somebody who goes out and finds or sources these deals as leads for the actual investor. So I'm not sure if you'd actually call these guys an investor because they don't actually do the investing. They're basically just going out and finding the deals and then pitching it to somebody else who's going to go and find the owner and close the owner on actually selling the property. This is usually done through networking, or it can be done through driving around the neighborhood looking for distressed properties, or even doing something like sending out mailers or cold calling people. Our next type of investor, which we talked about a little bit earlier, is a wholesaler, right? This is somebody who acts as a middleman between the seller and the end buyer, who's either gonna live in the home or they're gonna fix it up and flip it. So the wholesaler is actually the person that's there talking to the seller, and they're the one tying up the property with a contract. They're the ones that are going to be explaining the situation to the seller and explaining that they're not going to have to pay fees, they're going to have a quick close, and all of these other things that a seller might be looking for. Now, you can also be in that position where you're the one talking to the seller, but maybe you're going to be the end buyer, right? That's our next type of investor. You don't have to be a wholesaler to do those things, but if you're the one that's actually buying it, you're still going to go through that process potentially. So you can say, hey, I'm going to buy it from you, I'm going to cash you out, there's no fees, it's a quick close, it's fast and easy. But I'm going to come in, I'm going to fix it up, and then I'm going to sell it to somebody else, and I'm going to make a little bit of money there. So these are some of the different types of investors, and getting back to that sign of real estate investor seeks trainee, basically that's somebody who's looking for somebody else to go out and find these deals for them. Regardless of what type of investing you're looking to do, finding the deal is always the hardest part of the process, and that's why people are willing to pay for this, and they want other people to do it for them. Basically, what those bandit signs are looking to do is they're looking for somebody to become a bird dog for the investor so that the bird dog can go out and find these properties for the investor, and then the investor just pays them a referral fee. Generally, it's about $500 to $1,000, but of course it can be negotiated as a percentage of the profit if it closes, but generally they'll just pay you, $500 to $1,000 if it's a solid lead. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said, please give me a like on the video here, comment down below what your thoughts are on this video, and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. I'd love to see you around here more often. My name's Cody, and until next time.